Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 127 of Toss the Tristain Sports Show. Yes, it is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us this week. College basketball is about to get mad for the men and the women. The Bucks are returning to a familiar place. It's starting to look real familiar, too. Green Bay Packers. The Rodgers saga is over. Or is it? And in the toss sweep, I do something I rarely do. I get a little bit personal and talk about why March is such a difficult month for myself and my family, but how we're trying to come through it. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state, where we speak about the state of sports in the state of Wisconsin. And let's peek in with the men's and women's teams in college basketball, at least for the Wisconsin teams. Things fell the way that we thought they would. Congratulations to the Marquette men's basketball team winning the Big East tournament. They are now regular season champions as well as tournament champions. And for their efforts, they get a 2 seed. 2 seed out of the East. I thought for sure it would be in the Midwest, but I think they got a little bit more of a favorable draw coming out of the East. Again, number 2 seed for all their efforts. Fantastic season. It's going to keep going. I said it before and I say it again. They are built for March. They can defend. They can shoot the three. They can get to the cup. They can win a game many different ways. You want to grind it out, they can do that. You want to make it a track meet, they can do that. You want to shoot it out, they can do that too. So Marquette is 2 seed. They'll get things started on Friday. They have the Friday-Sunday matchups. I think they'll do well. I will admit right now, as we record this program on a Wednesday night, on the eve of the true madness, I know the first four the first 4 games, started yesterday on Tuesday, and they're continuing tonight here on Wednesday again, as we record this program on a Wednesday. I have not completed my bracket. This is probably one of the more difficult brackets I've had to try to predict. So I am still working on it. I still have it till 11 a.m. on Thursday, so y'all get up off me. But Marquette, a number 2 seed. The women get a 9 seed. They will get their action started on Friday. Marquette women's basketball team, they too had a great season, again finishing 4th in the Big East in the regular season, falling short in the Big East tournament against UConn, which was a team that they had beat before, but UConn has been playing a lot better now. Just weren't able to overcome them. Got kind of a dirty draw because if they beat South Florida, their opponents in the first round, they then move on to the second round, and it will be against everybody's favorite, probably including mine, South Carolina. I do not foresee them upsetting South Carolina. I really don't if they make it through the first round against South Florida. So the women, they get their action started on Friday. Badger men's basketball team did not make it to the tournament as I said they would not. They did not deserve it, plain and simple. They did not play well enough. They did not execute well enough in those close games. They got their bubble burst as soon as they lost that game. First round, Big Ten tournament, it was over for them. They did, however, get an invite to the NIT, in which they got a 2 seed. I know I reported on the Toss Facebook page, which you can see, facebook.com/TON That's TON Sports Show. That they got a 3 seed is actually a 2 seed. They won their first round game at the NIT. They'll be moving on. But they are exactly where I thought they would be all teams that I said would be in their respective fields really landed where I thought they would. Now it's time to enjoy the madness. All right, let's move on from college and get to the NBA and talk Milwaukee Bucks basketball. After a tough loss to the Warriors on Saturday night in overtime, a game that they had in control, but Steph Curry woke up and went nuclear. They bounced back big time. They had a tough two-step, a back-to-back against the Sacramento Kings, who keep flip-flopping between second and third in the Western Conference. Tough team, good team, offensive laden. They beat them. We'll talk about that in a minute. Come back the very next night and defeat. Can you really call this a rivalry at this point when the Bucks keep winning? And they won on the biggest stage, the NBA Finals, against the Suns. Got that job done to get win number 50. They are now 50-19 on the season and become the first team in the NBA this season to clinch a playoff berth. Just think about the damage they're doing. In their last 23 games, the Bucks are 21-2. Their only two losses came against the 76ers and the Warriors. The Sixers for sure, a playoff team. The Warriors, they're holding on. They may very well be in the play-in, or they might miss the play-in and just be a 6 seed altogether. But two potential playoff teams, again, the Sixers for sure. Warriors are fighting for their position. Can't be mad at those losses. You could be mad at the way they lost. Spoke about this last week. You can't give up 48 in the fourth quarter and expect to win. That's what the Bucks did against the Sixers. That's why they lost that game. That's why they lost that 16-game winning streak. Bucks really didn't do a great job on Steph Curry with that shot to tie the ball game. Woke up, went nuclear. So you cannot like how they lost it, but you can't be mad at the losses. Again, these are two really good squads. I know the Warriors have been really up and down. They've been injured and inconsistent, not quite defending the same way that they were, but still playoff team in the West. Got to be doing something right. Maybe they get on a little bit of a run. We'll see. But you can't be mad at the losses to the teams. You can be mad at how they lost, but to come back after a tough loss on the road, back-to-back, now take care of business in that tough two-step against the Kings, against the Suns, that's outstanding. Giannis returned from, some people call it veterans rest. Other people call it, letting the hand heal, the wrist heal. Either way, he returned from his absence. Monday night against the Kings. Dropped 46 and 12 on them. Missed the prior 3 games. Comes back like he never left and drops 46 and 12. Kings got mad. They had a double-digit lead in that game. Giannis was simply too dominant. Bucks defense, simply too dominant. They're third in defensive rating. This is a tough defensive ball club. They came back against the Kings, got the job done. Giannis dribbling the ball out. Some people are saying that he purposely went in front of Trey Lyles, and others will say he's dribbling the ball out. He's not even looking where Lyles is, and Lyles is definitely not paying attention. Lyles took exception to it. Thought Giannis was trying to show him up, which if you watch Giannis, you know that ain't it. When does Giannis ever show anybody up? That's not what he does. He plays with great intensity. but he doesn't show people up. Don't know where that's coming from. It just comes from all the Giannis haters, really. And that just goes to show you the type of air, the rarefied air he is in. He is a guy who could be MVP every single year, but will not win it every single year. Even in the years that he deserves it, this year being one of them. He likely won't win it. And also when you win and you win consistently, and when you're dominant and dominant consistently and nobody can really truthfully stop you, you have a certain segment of fans, and I'm using the air quotes, that turn against said player. Happens every time, and it's happening with Giannis. Lyles took exception to it, pushes Giannis in the back, and you know nobody on the Bucks squad is having that. Brook Lopez gets in the face of Trey Lyles for what he had done. Let him know he didn't like it. Lyles putting hands around his throat. Brook getting hands on him. And I'm going to paraphrase, but he's basically saying that to Giannis, hey, I got your back. I'm not going to let him do that stuff to you. That was some real punkish behavior, if you ask me, by Trey Lyles and all the Kings, including the head coach, Mike Brown. Instead of getting on his team for starting this mess, instead of Trey Lyles keeping his mouth shut, instead of De'Aaron Fox keeping his mouth shut, because they're the ones who started it. They continue to perpetuate that behavior. And Mike Brown continues to incubate that behavior, coddle that behavior, foster that behavior. Well, we're not going to let anybody push us around. We ain't going to take no stuff from nobody. When you fools are the one who started it. Instead of perpetuating that behavior, instead of incubating that behavior, instead of coddling that behavior, how about you get on your team about doing stupid stuff like this? Because now Trey Lyles is suspended for a game. Brook got fined $25,000, but Giannis already said, hey, I'm picking up the money for his tax. I'm picking up the fine for his tax. $240 million contract could do that for you, but I digress. One player got suspended, the other player got fined. Who do you think is in the wrong? But regardless of that, Bucks playing well. Again, 21-2 in their last 23 games, third in defensive rating. I believe they're fourth in net rating overall. First team to 50 wins. First team to clinch a playoff spot. Number one seed in the Eastern Conference and the best record in the NBA. This team is starting to look real familiar. Chris continuing to play well. Bobby Portis, who should be having his name mentioned way more than it has been for sixth player of the year. Drew continuing to be a menace on defense, especially in that Phoenix game. Devin Booker's got to be having nightmares about Drew. Grayson Allen playing well in the role that he's been in, not having to play extended minutes. Jay Crowder closing games out. A good defensive presence. The pieces are falling to where they need to. Guys are starting to get comfortable in the roles that they know they'll end up playing for the rest of the season, which isn't that long. You don't have that many more games remaining. 13 regular season games left. And then it's showtime. It's playoff time. But this team is starting to look real familiar. And they can only get better. And that's a scary thought for the rest of the league. Continuing here on Toss, we got to go to the Green Bay Packers. Now, there's some news out there that some may consider large, but I consider we knew this already. Some may say that the saga is finally over, and I say pump your brakes. Before we get to that guy, let's talk about some things that the Packers have done, like re-signing Keyshawn Nixon, their electric returner, a move that had to happen. He is giving you life on special teams. He is giving you life in the return game that you have not had in a long time. Great to see him coming back. But there is a guy who was under center. There's a guy who spent a few days in darkness, emerged. We all thought he was going to have a decision at that point, but apparently he needed to drag it on a little bit more. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers. He goes on his buddy Pat McAfee's show today and basically said, and I need y'all to really pay attention to what Rodgers said, because you have to pay attention to what he says. We all knew that from that immunization comment a few years ago. He said, I intend on playing for the New York Jets next season. I intend on playing for the New York Jets next season. Some people out there are under the impression that he's a free agent and that he can go wherever he wants to, and that simply isn't the case. This man signed his extension 1 year ago. Actually, a year and a day ago. He is still very much under contract with the Green Bay Packers, which means the Packers would have to trade him and another team would have to be willing to trade for him. Now, the reports out there that the Jets were the main team that were in on Rodgers and trying to facilitate a trade for him are all true. The conversations that I've been able to have with people in the know of the situation have said as much. But all the reports are saying that, oh, it's a done deal, were false. Again, that is what I've been told by people with knowledge of the situation. And it turns out to be true. Rodgers said it on Pat McAfee. He intends on playing for the New York Jets, and they're still trying to figure it out. There's a whole leverage play. At first, when I heard about it and heard the things that Rodgers was saying on the Pat McAfee show, I was like, oh, man, he's taking all sorts of leverage. But then I thought, wait a minute. Packers are still very much in the driver's seat because they don't have to trade Aaron Rodgers. They could just bench him and say, you know what? Jets didn't want to come to our price. We don't have to trade you. So you could retire and we move on to Jordan Love, or you could sit your behind down and we go on with Jordan Love. Now, I think the Packers were really wanting a decision before the draft so they know better a game plan. Okay? How do we need to draft? What do we need to do to help this young quarterback be great? And we're talking Jordan Love. Do we need to go and get a few offensive pieces for him? And people are like, oh, he has nobody to pass to. And yeah, I mean, I can understand why you would say that. We all knew that Allen Lazard was not going to be able to reach an agreement with the Green Bay Packers. Packers were simply not going to give him the money that he was seeking. The New York Jets did. I guess he was a part of that wish list that Aaron Rodgers handed the Jets. I want Lazard. I want Cobb. I want Mercedes Lewis. This, that, and the third. I want Odell Beckham Jr. But people also forget you got Romeo Doubs. You got Christian Watson, who, if both guys stay healthy, can be stars in their positions. I really feel they both have that sort of talent. You got two good running backs, a good offensive line when they are healthy and together. I think you have the tools to help Jordan Love win. And then on top of that, you're going to get a quarterback in Jordan Love who is going to run the offense the way that Matt LaFleur has always envisioned it. Because about 80% of the time, the plays that you saw on the field, called by LaFleur, were not the plays that you saw Rodgers go with. He changed the play at the line of scrimmage almost 80% of the time. It was not a true LaFleur offense. And if you remember, in that 5-game winning streak, one thing they did incredibly well was run the football. That is a LaFleur offense. LaFleur wants to run the football, and he wants to pass off of that running game. You look at what San Francisco has done. Tough defensively. An offensive line that could just maul other defensive lines. Absolutely able to run the football just about against anyone. And they just simply do not make mistakes in the passing game. They don't beat themselves. Why wouldn't you want to play with something within the system and do something that you know works? It's just a part of the problem with Aaron Rodgers. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm dumping on Aaron Rodgers. As a player, he is absolutely phenomenal. There is no denying that. Am I a little bit bummed that he intends on going elsewhere to play? Yes. But again, this saga isn't over. This is why I'm saying pump your brakes. The Packers don't have to trade him. The Packers have all the leverage. The Jets want him. They literally passed up on Carr because they had an inside track, and I'm using air quotes, on a trade for Aaron Rodgers. Now you're fighting over compensation. How much of the salary are the Jets going to eat? Are you going to compensate enough picks or enough players that fit what Green Bay wants to do? It's all about compensation for a guy who is 1 year removed from his 4th NFL MVP. Can still play at a very high level. We've seen that. But is, as he said, and as I've been in conversations with people, the feeling is just they want to give Love that opportunity to see what they have in him. Getting starter reps in practice. Being the starter, not looking over his shoulder. Week in and week out. And there will be growing pains. But I think we've all been clamoring to see what you have in Jordan Love. How will he be able to prepare as the starter? Getting him starter reps. How durable is he? How much better has he gotten since he was drafted? It's just very, very, very intriguing with all of this. But remember, the saga is not over. until this trade is agreed upon and compensation is agreed upon, the saga is not truly over. But at least the saga of Aaron Rodgers' intentions are over. We know he wants to play in New York. We know he wants to move away from the Green Bay Packers. We know the Green Bay Packers will much rather move with Jordan Love to see what they have to go in that direction. And I think a big part of it is they want to run the Matt LaFleur offense the way that Matt LaFleur sees fit. Because they feel that they will have a lot of success in doing so. There's a lot of excitement around Jordan Love. I think he could be a good player. I never sit here and say, oh, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Nobody knows that. There are no surefire Hall of Famers coming out of any organization, any college, nowhere, any level. But you just hope that could be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. You hope that he can lead this team to a lot of wins and a lot of success in the playoffs. But this saga is not over until the Jets and the Packers agree to compensation and agree to this trade and it is finalized. This saga is not truly over, but the saga of the intentions of Aaron Rodgers is over. He wants to be in New York. Like I said, am I a little bit bummed to see him go? Absolutely. But I feel it is time for everyone involved to move on. And that's the state of the state. Marquette men's basketball get a 2 seed. They'll start on Friday in the tournament. Marquette women's basketball gets a 9 seed. They'll also start on Friday in the tournament. Badger men basketball, they get a 2 seed in the NIT, won their first game. We'll see how they progress through their NIT tournament. The Bucks, 50-19, clinched the playoff berth. First team in the NBA to 50 wins, starting to look real familiar. And Aaron Rodgers, the saga ain't over. We know he wants to play in New York. He intends to. But until that trade is finalized and compensation is agreed upon by the Packers and the Jets, this thing ain't over. It's time for us to run a toss sweep. Facebook.com/TON Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show is your home for Toss on Facebook. Touching on a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get a chance to on this program. That's Facebook.com/TON Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. A quick programming note. We will not be heard next week. I feel that it is very appropriate to kind of take a little bit of a break, given the month and given all the things that that have happened to my family in this month historically. And it's really a sandwich almost of the bad and then of the good. This month is very difficult for my family and myself. Last March, lost my sister. My sister was killed by a reckless driver. And this reckless driver is, I believe he's only getting a year in prison. He's getting a few years probation, parole after that. Not true justice. We're still not happy about it, and it still hurts to this day. March 21st, 2019, my mother passed suddenly. And my mom had been fighting a lot of ailments for many years. well over 20 years. You're talking diabetes, which she had gotten under control, but the longer you have diabetes, the harder it is to control. Congenital heart failure. She had arrhythmia. She did have a defibrillator in her chest. Just a lot of different ailments that she had to deal with, that she was fighting, and it all came from the stressors of being a single parent, trying to figure out how to take care of double-digit children in the household. So, whenever she goes into the hospital, she goes in and then she gets the best care possible. And then, when she starts cussing people out because she don't want to be poked or prodded anymore, she wants to go home and be in her own element. That's how we know she's okay. But that wasn't the case that last time she went into the hospital. And, for a little while there, it looked like she was improving and she might come out. And then her condition deteriorated to the point where she passed. And, it just coincides with how hard this month is. It's a really rough month for myself and for my family. And we really lean on each other. We're a family of strong individuals, but losing two special people like that, not even 3 years apart, in the same month, it's to say it's hard is an understatement. We're still reeling from it. We're still trying to heal from it. You can have a whole cast of strong individuals, but something like this will break you down. And it definitely has. And we've had to build each other back up. And we're trying to navigate it as best we can each and every single day. But that's the rough of it. The good of it is my son was born in March. And this year he'll be celebrating his 6th birthday. And that's a great thing. To see how much he's grown, and now he's in school, he's in kindergarten, and to see how much he's learned and his love of learning is it's amazing. He's amazing. And then just yesterday, my niece gave birth to her first child, a boy. We'll call him TK. Takoa, we love you. TK, we love you. I can't wait to meet him. Yes, I am a great uncle yet again. I believe this is the 6th time. So it's exciting. It's a blessing. And of course it happened on the day that my sister was taken off of life support. She was put on life support because she was a organ donor. So they kept her on life support. And then my nephew, D'Angelo, we love you, man, made the tough decision to take her off of life support. And that happened a year ago to the day that Takoa had her son and her grandbaby, and that is so not lost on me. It's like, wow, something so sad happened a year ago, and now something so joyful happened this year on that day. To truly appreciate the sun, you have to go through the rain. And that's essentially what life is. They say life is what you make it, and that's definitely true, but you will get tested in life. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for the family that I do have, that we're able to lean on each other and that we're able to build each other up and help each other through the tough parts so we can get to the joyful moments. So March is definitely a rough month for myself and my family. But for as much bad, as much sad has happened in this month to us, it's been a lot of joy that has happened too. A mixed bag of emotions. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. That was episode 127 of Toss the Tristain on Sports Show. You know where I am on social media. At the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on both. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Your home for Toss on Facebook. Touching on a lot of things there that we don't get a chance to hear on this show. That's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And of course, TossNationMedia.com. Your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Until then, so long from Toss.